Okay, let's unpack this. I came across a story that really, well, it stopped me in my
Oh,
tracks.
yeah. What was it?
A seemingly healthy 32-year-old CEO, a marathon runner, suffered a heart attack.
Wow. That's young, especially for a runner.
Exactly. And the surprising trigger, get this, severe dehydration. His blood had actually thickened.
Dehydration. Leading to a heart attack. That's quite something.
Right. So that's what we're digging into today. Our mission really is to understand how something so basic like hydration can have these huge consequences even for people who seem super fit.
And presumably to help people spot the signs, because they aren't always obvious.
Precisely. We need to help you recognize those often subtle warning signs your body might be sending out. We'll look at, the link between dehydration and thicker blood, what that does to your heart,
Mm,
those sort of whispering symptoms that are easy to ignore, and why it's not just about drinking plain water.
right. The electrolytes matter too. And how things like your activity level or even just the weather change what you need.
Absolutely. So what's fascinating, you mentioned this case reflects something medicine is seeing more.
Yeah, it's maybe still underappreciated, but the link is becoming clearer. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? Even if you're doing everything else right, fitness-wise.
You can't skip the basics.
Exactly. You still need enough water.
Yeah.
You could even speculate if modern life plays a role, long hours inside, air conditioning,
Hmm. Rying us out without us realizing.
potentially. Or maybe we're just better at diagnosing these things now.
Yeah,
Either way, it's a link worth understanding.
definitely. Okay, so let's get right to it. How does not drinking enough water actually make blood thicker? It almost sounds counterintuitive.
Well, think of your bloodstream like a river, right? Water is the main fluid keeping everything flowing smoothly. It carries oxygen, nutrients, all that essential stuff.
Okay.
When you get dehydrated, you're essentially reducing the water volume in that river. So everything else, the red blood cells, proteins, you name it, gets more concentrated.
So it's denser.
Exactly. More viscous, thicker, which means it's much harder for your heart to pump around your body. The article we looked at used a good analogy.
Yeah.
It's like trying to sip really thick honey through a narrow straw. That's the kind of extra effort your heart is suddenly dealing with.
Wow, okay. That paints a picture. And this CEO, his hemoglobin level was a big clue, wasn't it? It was 18 GDL. You mentioned that's high. What does that number tell us?
Right, so hemoglobin is the protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen. A typical healthy upper limit is around, say, 17.2 GDL. His 18 was significantly over that.
So higher means thicker blood in this context.
Essentially, yes. When there's less water, less plasma volume, the concentration of red blood cells, therefore hemoglobin, goes up in any given sample of blood. So that 18 was a key lab finding pointing straight at hemoconcentration due to dehydration.
Okay, so thicker blood means the heart works harder. That makes sense. But how does that jump from working harder to an actual heart attack, especially in someone otherwise healthy?
Well, it's about sustained strain and risk factors multiplying. This increased viscosity means the heart is under more pressure, beat after beat.
Right.
Now, you add a major stressor on top of that, like intense exercise, running a marathon in his case, or maybe extreme heat.
Yeah.
That heart, already struggling to pump this thicker fluid, gets pushed even further. And crucially, sluggish blood flow increases the risk of clots forming within the blood vessels.
Ah, okay. The clots.
Yes. If one of those clots forms and then travels to block an artery supplying the heart muscle itself, well, that's a heart attack.
And the striking thing here was the lack of other typical risks.
Exactly. No pre-existing heart conditions, no high cholesterol flag, nothing obvious. Dehydration seemed to be the main culprit triggering this whole cascade. It really shows how physiology works.
It really does. Now, you mentioned something earlier about the body whispering dehydration signs, not shouting. What are these quieter signals we might be missing?
This is so important because, like the sources said, by the time you feel really thirsty, you could already be significantly dehydrated. Your body's trying to tell you earlier.
Oh.
Well, things like a sudden drop in your usual stamina. You're well trained, but suddenly you feel wiped out much sooner than expected.
Hmm.
Headaches, but maybe ones that feel a bit different from your usual stress headache. More persistent, perhaps.
Right.
You might notice odd heart palpitations, like a fluttering feeling, especially during or maybe right after a workout.
Okay, that would get my attention.
Yeah. And muscle cramps, but not necessarily after huge exertion. Maybe in your calves or feet, kind of out of the blue.
Right. Cramps without the usual cause.
Yeah. And Probably the most reliable, consistent sign is just noticing your urine is consistently dark yellow or even amber colored.
We all know we should look, but maybe don't pay enough attention.
It's easy to dismiss these things, isn't it? Oh, I just pushed too hard or it's just hot today.
Mm.
But they could be early warnings.
It's a good reminder to tune in more. Now, thinking about fixing it, most people just think, drink more water. But you suggested it's more complex.
It is, yeah. It's not just about volume. I mean, volume is important, but consistent intake throughout the day is key. And crucially, replacing what you lose, especially through sweat.
Minerals, mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Electrolytes like sodium and potassium. You lose them when you sweat, obviously, but also just gradually. Even sitting in an air-conditioned office all day, you're still losing moisture.
I wouldn't have thought of AC like that.
Yeah, insensible loss. And plain water alone doesn't put those vital minerals back. Sodium helps manage fluid outside your cells, potassium inside, and they're vital for nerves, muscles, everything.
So plain water isn't always the best option, especially after sweating a lot.
It might not be enough, no. You need to replenish those electrolytes.
So what are good options besides just water?
Well, the sources mentioned a few good ones. Coconut water is naturally decent in electrolytes.
Okay.
Or even something simple like lime juice with just a tiny pinch of salt. That helps replace sodium.
Simple.
And then there are ORS, oral rehydration solutions. They're specifically formulated with the right balance of salts and a bit of sugar to help your body absorb the fluid really quickly. Great after major fluid loss.
Right. Those sachets you mix up.
Exactly. And there's even a caution against overdoing plain water. If you drink massive amounts without electrolytes, you can actually dilute the salts in your body too much, which can lead to fatigue or worse. It's about balance.
Finding that sweet spot. Okay. And obviously our needs change, right? Depending on the weather, what we're doing.
Hugely. It's dynamic. Running a 10K in cool March weather is completely different from running that same 10K in the heat of May or June in terms of sweat loss.
Makes sense.
More heat, more intense activity, even higher stress levels can increase fluid loss. So you have to adjust your intake accordingly.
And remembering that AC point too, even indoors isn't neutral.
Right. You're still losing water vapor through skin and breathing, even if you don't feel sweaty.
So we can't just rely on a fixed amount each day. We need to be more aware. How can we build that awareness? Any practical tips?
Simple checks can help. That urine color check is a really easy one. Aim for pale straw color most of the time.
Okay.
Making a conscious effort to sip water regularly through the day instead of waiting till you're parched and then downing a huge amount.
Yeah, maintain a level.
Exactly. Keep a water bottle visible nearby. That visual cue helps build the habit.
It's like retraining ourselves to listen to those whispers, not just waiting for the shout of thirst. Now, the sources mentioned cases like this, CEOs are being seen more often. That sounds worrying.
It is a cause for concern, yeah. It highlights that fitness isn't like a magic shield against basic physiological needs. Even a really strong, well-trained heart needs adequate fluid to work properly.
So it's not just an anomaly.
It seems less anomalous than perhaps previously thought. Hospitals are seeing more cases like this, even in fit people without the usual cardiac risk factors. It suggests maybe dehydration as a trigger for serious heart issues is, well, more common than we realized.
But the good news in the CEO story was the recovery, right? Treatment worked.
Absolutely. That's crucial. They treated him with intravenous fluids to rehydrate him quickly, and blood thinners initially, likely to address any clotting risk from the thick blood.
And his hemoglobin went back down?
Yes, it returned to a normal 13 GDL. It shows that if you catch it, if you recognize the dehydration and address it promptly, the situation can often be reversed. Early awareness is key.
So the big takeaway here for you listening is pretty clear. Don't underestimate hydration. It's not just about thirst.
Not at all. It's fundamental. Even if you feel fit and healthy, being significantly dehydrated can have serious silent impacts on your heart.
Which leads to a final thought for you to consider.
Yeah, take a moment to really think about your own day, your routine, your environment, the office, your commute, your workouts. Are there maybe hidden ways you're losing fluids without really noticing?
Like that AC effect, maybe?
Yeah.
Or just forgetting to sip water between meetings.
Exactly. And based on that, what small, easy changes could you make starting today to be a bit more intentional about staying hydrated? It's a simple thing, but it could make a real difference to supporting your heart health long term.